Good afternoon all, and thank you. I sit as the General Manager of Venture Fruit, TNG Global's plant variety and commercialisation business. Bit of background on TNG. New Zealand's horticultural sector contributes about 7 billion to the New Zealand economy, with about 40,000 jobs and nearly 5 billion in exports on an annual basis. TNG Global is a major player in the industry. We've been here for over 127 years as turners and growers, and we've grown fresh produce and worked with independent growers to market, sell their fruit and vegetables here in New Zealand and through exports around the world. Today, we're the country's largest grower of tomatoes and citrus and the largest exporter of apples. Our business spans the entire value chain, from licensing and commercialising of the plant variety genetics that we trade in, through to growing, post-harvest operations, imports, exports, and the actual consumer-facing sales and marketing component. Two of our premium global apple varieties that we've taken to the world, Jazz and Envy, are now grown in over 13 countries and sold across more than 50. Sustainability is at the heart of our business, and we treat the land, people, produce, resources, and communities with the greatest respect and care as guardians of their future and also ours. So I think with the key points of the submission we want to kick into, firstly, we'd like to thank the Health Select Committee for the work that's gone into preparing this bill. We are supportive of modernising the regulatory system for gene technologies, and as such do broadly support the bill. However, note in our submission there's 4 areas where we believe further consideration is required to ensure the bill achieves the desired intent. The importance of a balanced approach. The safe adoption of advanced breeding technologies will potentially provide significant opportunities to New Zealand's hort sector, improving benefits and outputs while reducing environmental impacts faster than what's currently possible through breeding practices. We're just not getting there fast enough, and as PFR rightfully point out, we need to speed that process up. Given that, though, it's important that the regulator adopts a balanced and considered approach when considering the impacts, and that any potential risks are managed appropriately pretty much on a case-by-case basis. The bill must be an enabler to enhance New Zealand's competitive advantage, improve that sustainability and boost economic growth. And to do that, there's going to be a very interesting balance between enabling but also ensuring the health of our people and environment is kept at the forefront of our thoughts. There are potentially significant commercial impacts of the bill, and it's essential that the industry manages the likes of trade, market access, broader implications, and consumer sentiment acceptance. However, the regulator will need information in these areas to support its role in decision making. A decision itself cannot be made only by the technical Te Maori perspective, as there will also be opportunities, implications and risks from a commercial perspective. So we've put forward the recommendation that there is a commercial advisory function within the Technical Advisory Committee to support those elements. And a lot of that has been highlighted today by the submitters as well. We do believe it is important to maintain, develop and set up a register and a declaration of statements from a market access and trade point of view. Many countries have different levels of acceptance and not at the moment, but also from the New Zealand border of what is coming in. So we can regulate what's happening in New Zealand, but making sure we've got that choice of when it's coming in and being able to manage that successfully. The registration would need to be supported by declaratory statements for the organisms both excluded from the application of the bill or exempt under it as proposed. And that register would ensure that an accurate list of which organisms are here, as well as those entering global markets from New Zealand. And our submission would be suggested a potential tree for the regulator, how to manage that process. We've also highlighted there that it's important that the activities and resulting organisms of those activities are registered in a way that does not compromise the ability to protect the IP. There's going to be a significant amount of investment made, and disclosures and declarations made by people could potentially unwittingly compromise the IP protections, but that needs to be considered if that was implemented. And finally, on the Plant Varieties Act, obviously our focus is plants and horticulture, but we have suggested some changes to support adequate IP protection through some amendments to the Plant Variety Act if we were to bring that on board. So I'm happy to provide some answers at this time or do any questions that people might have had, but essentially that's my summary.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Very clear, substantive submission. We've heard from the science side that they think that assessment of market and trade risk should be left to the industry. But the industry is very clearly saying you want the regulator to address that. You want to make sure the regulator is taking into account trade and market risk.
No, not necessarily. We are suggesting that the decisions can't be made in isolation. There's got to be a crossover to ensure that the regulator also supports a commercial element of consideration in those decisions. So, yeah, so solely with them.
Yeah, so an advisory committee or some such with industry perspective? I
think an element within the technical committee could be a commercial subgroup or an element in there that could consider order transfer.
Another quick stuff for that. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's just bounce it around.
You spoke about benefits.
Sorry.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Morgan. So turners and growers have the plant variety right for Jazz, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So the variety that is Jazz, yes.
Yes, sorry. That's a cross between Braeburn and Royal Gala?
Correct.
So there's quite a few DNA changes. You're asking for a registry for things that may have a small base pair change, but when something has such a drastic change, that would be okay?
Correct. If it's applied through the technologies that would be regulated by the bill, that is correct. If it's exempt, including if it's exempt, if it is traditional breeding means, that's not what we're suggesting.
Actually, it's interesting follow-on from that, because I am interested in that register as well, and it goes to the issue, I think, of public trust, which was raised by
earlier submitters as well. Do you think that having that register would help to build the public's trust in gene-modified, gene technology-produced food and the like, that they know about it, whether that register exists for a long time or a short time?
I think there's still a lot of work to be done around what a register would look like due to the commercial sensitivities of that, but knowing that there is a register there that supports legislation and regulation, I think would go a long way to state that at least we know what is happening, what is coming and going.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You point out that you think there should be an assessment of both risks and benefits. This is something that seems to be logical to me. I wonder if you can expand on it, because for us to evaluate whether a risk is worth taking, we need to know what the benefit is going to be. So some sort of thorough evaluation of that is appropriate.
Yes, correct. So, sorry, restate the question. So you want me to give an example of that?
Yeah, just to verify why it's important not just to assess risks, but we also need to assess benefits.
Sure. If a particular crop can pick up 30%, can be bred to use 30% less water use, or be resistant to shrinkage due to high sun rate, or you're losing product and you're able to get more yield out with lower shrinkage, that benefit would benefit everybody, the producer right through to the consumer. Also the sustainability of the land and the people that live around that particular crop, for example.
We want to be able to test whether those benefits are reasonable claims that have been made by the applicant.
Well, I think that's part of the process, yes, but that would start as why are you doing that particular cross or change. If the ideal way of doing that is to provide that benefit of higher heat tolerance or lower water use, that would be a claim made through that process.
And to whom the benefit accrues, I guess.
Oh, yeah, who the benefit accrues on water use is, I think that's a broader benefit, right?
Thank you. Hey, Morgan, thank you very much. It's been very good to have you here, and thank you for your submission on behalf of...
That was an interesting submission.
He is talking like a businessman. He's talking about we want to make sure that the IP is protected no matter what, and the people that need to get money out of this are getting the money out of that. But we've got to be really careful. But one thing he doesn't talk about is that, and this is GM Watch is a website that I recommend people go on if they don't know about it already. They have a lot of examples of crop varieties that have been bred conventionally. You can use this thing called marker-assisted selection, which is a molecular marker which speeds the process up enormously. So it speeds up traditional breeding by molecular methods that aren't GE. And they have produced crops that are resistant to saline soils, crops that are resistant to drought, crops that are resistant to pests, crops that are resistant to disease. And this is all conventional breeding, it's not anything genetically modified. These are all here, they're all out there. But this is basically a technique looking to make money and a technique looking for something to do because there's so many people employed in it. What are we going to do with all these scientists rattling around in the labs who can't make money out of these things because actually, because in the field tests they don't do well at all. Everything that's been field tested so far, because when I was out at Lincoln they were field testing already, just didn't do well in the field. It was just not a goer, Yeah,
I mean, I don't understand the argument from, we need GE because it cuts down on our water use. It's like we live in a country where we throw away $2.9 billion worth of food every year. Maybe we can start there, try to find ways to minimize food waste in the market first before, going for, drought-resistant GE crops.
Yeah,
Also, exactly.
Oh, sorry.
No, go, Elvira.
I'll just be really quick. The way that you retain water in the soil is you have a lot of organic matter. Organic matter holds moisture. It holds huge amounts of moisture. And you have a really good soil, a rich mulch holds the water in. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, from that article, that Rodale study, they literally say through this 40-year study, this is the other thing, it's not as if it's actually just a couple of years of field trials or whatever it may be before they put it out. This is ongoing. They did a report when it was 30 years and 10 years later they built on it again. So it's just, it's the only evidence that we've really got that's showing exactly what we need to do. And it says that healthy soils have increased biomass activity, they hold peak nutrition, they hold moisture until the plant needs it, they create symbiosis for the fungi to extend the roots networks, it creates healthier aggregate which sticks the soil together to prevent erosion, contains active microbes that ward off plant diseases, it's able to absorb water faster so it reduces flooding and runoff. holds carbon and keeps it out of the atmosphere. All of these things are happening. They're right. We do need to move fast, and we need to move faster towards this methodology. And I just read something today as well. It was on some gardening newsletter thing from the States. The lady was saying that the amount of emissions from food, oh, that's right, they said something like it was 30%, was well over 30% of the food waste in America, but 30% of it was actually just the consumers and the retail alone. And they said if you actually put together all the methane that came from that landfill that goes into landfills, that mass, and if you put that amount into what the countries are doing, America would be the third, the food waste itself, as far as methane, would be the third biggest contributor. So China, America, and then the American consumer biodegrading wasted food. There's so many simple things that are just, again, refining best practices and learning the old ways. Like it is so much more rewarding and self-fulfilling when you are actually putting your waste into the compost and feeding the worms and putting that back into it. And then all of a sudden you've got things growing accidentally, self-seeding, and you've got it happening in front of you, saying this is the whole country should be like this, and we should be leading the world with this. And we're on the way to doing it, except this thing is going to throw us back and just take away and jeopardize so much, all for one or two IPs that literally, I don't even think any of the money from these products would actually stay in New Zealand. Surely all the shareholders are offshore.
I like GE technology, but we have so many tools available already to manage the problems we have currently, right? It's not like we're like a desert or like the planet Mars, where it's like, okay, we need to start genetically engineering everything to have a chance. No. The Earth is still capable of growing natural shit.
Yeah. Oh, let's get on to our.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram.